Welcome back to What She Said Sports. Okay, so today, on the weekend edition of What She Said Sports, we're talking about remember all of those anonymous sources and during the draft, all you heard was an anonymous quarterback coach or an anonymous assistant coach, and you had reporters, you know, repeatedly sharing information by anonymous sources. And we talked about how not only cowardly that is, it's harmful. And with no confirmation, it seems that people could be lying, right? And we saw how the anonymous sources worked the draft. It's reported that there were these phone calls. Again, another anonymous source making phone calls to what the Pittsburgh Steelers before the Pittsburgh Steelers were prepared to take Shedeur Sanders, and that they had to listen to these phone calls, according to Mike Tomlin. And the other guy was still there, and they went with him. So essentially, the Pittsburgh Steelers settled on another player because they were seemingly talked out of uh, drafting Shedeur Sanders, a quarterback that they needed, someone who could be their franchise quarterback. Now, that's highly unfair for a source to smear someone's reputation, to defame someone, right? And what's also unfair is for the Pittsburgh Steelers to listen to an anonymous source. And in addition to being an anonymous source, listening to an anonymous source, being defamatory, are reporters doing harm by spreading unverifiable information, essentially lies. Now, there's one person that has been identified as a member of the media, if you will, also lists himself as an NFL insider and is supposed to be a senior writer for a popular publication. Um, this person's name is Albert Breer. And Albert Breer has reported on anonymous sources regarding Shedeur Sanders doing the NFL draft process, right? Meaning all the anonymity you heard going around, some of it was spread by Albert Breer. Okay. And it says specifically, Breer stated that he has spoken to multiple NFL scouts who didn't view Sanders as first round talent. Let's stop right there. Okay. How are we to know that this is the case? He said he's spoken to multiple NFL scouts. Who are they? How do we know Breer is being honest? How do we know the scouts told him anything? And in fact, if they even knew who Shedeur Sanders was, where is the confirmation that these scouts told him anything? Where is the confirmation that if he was told something, that it was by scouts? Or better yet, that the scouts had verifiable information, that they were speaking from a place of truth. This is the danger in sharing anonymous sources. There's the ability to lie. And we saw how defamation was used to rob Shedeur Sanders out of roughly $40 million, right? What did the owner say? Take that entitled so and so off the board. At what point in the process was Shedeur notified that he was no longer considered available for being drafted? See, again, another part of the process or the lack thereof, a process where Shedeur Sanders was treated with respect, where professionalism was the rule in the draft. So Albert Breer has stated that he's spoken with multiple NFL scouts who didn't view Sanders as a first round talent for various concerns, including lack of athletic ability. They didn't see him as a great athlete on tape. I don't know what game they were looking at because everybody can tell you that we saw Shedeur run for his life and still become the most accurate QB in college, right? Breaking records. Therefore, it calls into question Who told Albert Breer this information? Did anybody communicate such information to Albert Breer? Or did Albert Breer decide to say these things himself in effort to harm and hide behind anonymity himself? Who are these scouts? Who do they work for? What is their role? Did they even evaluate Shedeur Sanders? Do they even know who Shedeur Sanders is from a football perspective? And then he goes on to say that scouts told him Shedeur Sanders' arm talent. They didn't believe or view his arm talent as exceptional. Does it have to be exceptional? Does it have to be good? Does it have to be fair? Does it have to be good enough? How can the most accurate passer in college football not have arm talent? And who said exceptional was the bar? Again, these are questions that make you wonder if Albert Breer made up these things to harm Shedeur Sanders with no verifiable information. Did he even speak to a scout? Were these scouts assigned to cover Shedeur Sanders? What team did they work for? Who are these anonymous scouts, or are they imaginary? Much like the person that Aaron Rodgers is alleged to have married. Another one, the inability to translate skills to the NFL. Now, this is highly subjective, right? You're saying, I don't think his skills can translate to the NFL. What exactly does that mean? What are the metrics on measuring something like that, right? Where are the data points surrounding this evaluation? They felt he often did things, they and things, that he did things that wouldn't work at the professional level. Now let's examine that. They, who is they? They felt, okay? So your opinion is he's doing things. What are these things that wouldn't work? What are we talking about here? Again, is this a made up statement by Albert Breer himself? Where is the evaluation that he was speaking from? What are the data points? What are the metrics that they have measured, that they have scored, and Shedeur has fallen outside the range of passing? Where is it? Because otherwise, these are subjective, made up, and quite possibly lies by imaginary people. These concerns were part of the reasons that Breer projected Sanders to potentially fall out of the first round of the 2025 draft. So, information that is not verifiable, with no sources that could be imaginary, which basically could be amounting to lies and made up information about Breer to bolster his career, to get the attention of the NFL so maybe they would put him on the payroll, to satisfy the desire of maybe a team like the New York Giants, who truly did not want to draft Shedeur Sanders, and they needed enough dirt. They needed enough things to say about him. So they just made it up. Much like Shedeur Sanders is entitled. Shedeur Sanders was unprepared. These things all fall into the realm of defamation. Where's the proof? Who said it? Where's the measurement for it? What were the metrics? Let me see his scores that show that he fell outside the range of passing. So finally, we get a name, at least hopefully one of the first names and more to come, of the people who want to be looked at with expertise, being in the know, being insiders, people who want to be looked at for consultation of knowing it all, of having credibility. But instead, now you have to challenge. You have to not only challenge their knowledge, you have to challenge what they provided and put forth as truth about Shedeur Sanders. And you also have to challenge their credibility. Where is the proof that he failed? Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Of course, let me know your thoughts regarding the revelation that we now have a name to put with the anonymity, which was used to harm Shedeur Sanders and devalue Shedeur Sanders in the NFL draft. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Be sure to join our daily live stream and listen up to What She Said Sports on the go on Spotify. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Stay for another video.